Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
I have so much I want to talk about, so don't have a ton of time. And I had prepared like a speech, but the events of my day today have completely switched what I'm going to talk about and what we're going to do. I'm going to vibe with the energy in the room. Are y'all ready to vibe with me? Can we do that? Okay. I want to tell you about my day. So I'm in a band called The Beast, and we go around and we do educational workshops at schools. We do a workshop called Sankofa. It's about the history of black music from spirituals to hip hop. And it basically shows that black folks and black culture, you know, even though our bodies have been moved around and our history is kind of wrought with violence, our art and our spirit and our souls are resilient. And there are elements of hip hop that you can trace all the way back to Ghana, West Africa. It's a really cool workshop that kind of shows this story. And so I did this workshop at a predominantly white elementary school called Root Elementary in Raleigh, like this morning. I got up early, drove to Raleigh, did back-to-back workshops for this Sankofa thing. And I'm gonna tell you how it ended. So I'm there at this elementary school and I'm doing this song and the kids are like, these are elementary school kids. They're just like totally blasting off and super hype. And then I saw something that I've been seeing at schools recently that really just kind of, every time I see it, it just takes the breath out of my lungs. It's a kid either going like this, okay, Hail Hitler, okay, or they're throwing up the white power sign, all right? So first of all, I've been doing Sankofa workshops for, this is gonna show my age, 12 years, y'all. That's how long I've been doing these workshops in schools around the state of North Carolina. Never in the 9 years that I had been doing it before 2016 had I seen anyone throw up a Hail Hitler sign when I asked them to put a fist in the air. Okay, that started in 2016. Wonder why, okay, wonder why. Okay, so there were two new things. One, it doesn't often happen in the triangle. Okay, this was Raleigh. Two, I had never seen a young girl be the person to throw it up. And this was a young, blonde, you know, fourth grader, you know, throwing up this white power sign. And normally what we've learned to do in moments like these, we turn it into a teaching moment, you know, without calling the individual student out. We'll engage the folks in conversation about what white power means, where it comes from, what Hitler represented. And when you throw up the white power sign and the Hail Hitler sign, it represents genocide. You know, it represents white supremacy. You know, these things that have very real consequences in the lives of people of color. And but today I didn't have time for a teaching moment because I was on my way here. So I told my bandmates, I was like, give me the principal's number. I'll call him later. We'll talk about it because it's an important thing to discuss. In this moment, race it's such an important thing, especially this is for the whites, okay? It's very important that whatever discomfort, whatever reluctancy we have to have these difficult conversations, it is really important for white people to do research, to talk to each other, Because sometimes, I mean, as a brother, I wasn't feeling like chit-chatting with a fourth grader, and co-opting the performance that we came to talk about history, to talk about white supremacy. It actually, throws a wrench in the story that we were trying to tell, but it must be addressed. It absolutely must be addressed. So that was my morning. And so to come into this space with all these different flavors and all this Black love and the celebration through poetry, it just lifted my spirits. I came in with my bottom lip out. Now I'm just cheesing. And I thank you for that. Thank you. So I want to talk about one more thing in my, how many minutes do I have left? Like 4, okay. So we're talking today a lot about race, but thanks to radical Black feminists like Kimberly Williams Crenshaw and poets like Stacey Ann Chin, they talk a lot about how all oppression is connected. I want to hear y'all say that. All oppression is connected. All oppression is connected. Yes, so racism and white supremacy, is connected to patriarchy and sexism, is connected to homophobia and transphobia. All of these things are connected. And those things really came to a head in my life like this week. Once again, speaking in the moment, speaking about kind of what's going on in my life now. So when I was growing up in Durham, I was born and raised in Durham, I attended an elementary school and middle school called Immaculata. It was a Catholic school. Last week, Immaculata was doing a celebration of Black history, and they decided to invite, there's a commission who decided to invite Vernetta Alston, who is a Durham City Council woman, who is a queer woman married to another woman. And when the pastor of Immaculata, who's kind of the head of the school and the church, found out that they were inviting this Black woman, who's also a queer woman, he rescinded her invitation. He said, nah, I don't care if it's Black History Month, you can't speak on this campus, because he found the fact that she was married to a woman objectionable. And so he kind of framed it as such. He didn't mince words. He said, look, I'm a pastor, and I'm just not going to allow this. I have to juggle these types of tough decisions all the time. So what was interesting about that, well, first of all, I was offended. I'll just put it out there. As an alumni of Immaculata Catholic School, as a resident of Durham, as a Black man, and as a LGBTQ ally, I was just pissed off. And so what I did, I got a couple of my buddies together, and we penned an open letter to the pastor / principal of this school, and we talked about the multiple layers of intersecting oppression that were at play in the recusal of this invitation from a Black queer woman from speaking at Black History Month by a white man who is also straight and in charge of everything that happens at this school. And so for me, it was really ironic. Are y'all familiar with Pauli Murray? Okay, so Pauli Murray is a queer Durham activist who was the author of Brown versus Board of Education. Here's something, let me talk about the intersection of oppression, okay? When you think Black History Month, when you think the Civil Rights Movement, personally, I'm thinking Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., maybe we could take it back, Lil Marcus Garvey, throw some, there's a lot of Black men are being celebrated. We don't always talk about the radical role that many, many, many Black women played in the Civil Rights Movement, with the exception of like your occasional Rosa Parks. Sometimes they like to throw a token sister in there every once in a while. But let me tell you about Pauli Murray. She was the author of Brown versus Board of Education. This is the bill that desegregated schools, that led to desegregating the South. First of all, she was from Durham. Second of all, she was Black. She was also a queer woman. And so the interesting thing about Pauli Murray is there's a mural of this woman overlooking the campus of Immaculata Catholic School, my alma mater. And, Pauli Murray is the reason there are Black students at all at Immaculata Catholic School. Back in the 50s, it was an all-white school. You couldn't get in there. It is because of the radical activism of Black queer women, of people on the margins. But my point is this, it is the people, the very people that are being excluded, that are the ones that are responsible for us to be able to have integrated schools, for us to be able to have integrated congregations, and yet we're raising these barriers to say you're not allowed in the space because of your skin color, because of your gender, even if you disagree, because I'm totally down with disagreeing. I disagree with a lot of people. And I think it's important, though, as we disagree, to create space for folks to be heard. A big part of white supremacy, it's about invisibilizing people. We don't want to hear your story. So racism is one of the things that invisibilizes people. Being a woman, that's something that in this society, you're not gonna, to a lot of men, they're not even gonna be able to see or perceive some of what you're going through. And so I'll say this out there to all the men in the room. There's a lot of work that we need to do as men to understand how patriarchy impacts the women around us. A lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work that we need to do as straight allies to our LGBTQ community, and so that we can kind of come together and do what Stacey Ann Chin said. Because here's one half of it. All oppression is connected, yes. Also, all liberation is connected. And so that means none of us get free until we all get free. All right? None of us get free until we all get free. All right?
I really want to emphasize the fact that I've had that same situation occur to myself. And I think that you have to look into your classroom, and you have to, whatever bias that you bring to the table, you have to let that go. You can't go into a classroom and see that you have 2 black students and assume that they're either in the wrong classroom or that they don't know what they're doing, or that you always put them in the same group because you're not prepared to see what they can do and bring and contribute to the other people in the classroom. That's not okay. And I also want to emphasize that when you are the student and you're in that position, that hurt that you feel, that's something that so many of us feel every day. That is something that you take home with you, and you don't know how to process that. And that's what causes students to fail classes. That's what causes students to get caught in the school to prison pipeline. That is why students are dropping out. You start off with that little stigma, and that's what causes us to feel like we aren't equal, we're less than. And that's your biggest problem. If we're gonna preach equity, then you have to bring everyone to the equitable table. We have to all be on the same playing field. And if that means that, you start off your school year saying, hey, I get that we are not the most diverse classroom, but I'm gonna treat everyone the same way. I'm going to test you based off of what you know. I'm not gonna test you off of who your parents are. I'm not gonna test you off of what your origins are. I'm not gonna test you off of where you look like you come from. That's not what I signed up for when I came to Chapel Hill High School. And unfortunately, that is something that I've seen, that's something I've received. And that's what I wanna see changing. That's something that I wanna see change here so often, so, yeah.
We were in a GPAC meeting, which is a gifted parent advisory meeting, and we were having a conversation around our gifted ed services, and a parent stood up and was pretty angry and pointed at me and said that there was absolutely no way in the world I would know how difficult it is to raise a gifted child. And so y'all know what seat I sit in, so I'm still employed. But I was disappointed in that comment, but not surprised, unfortunately. But I was more disappointed that I was the only one that said something about the comment. That the entire room either was okay with it or didn't feel like they had the need to speak up. This issue is not a black issue or a brown issue. We all should speak up when we hear and see inequities. And as an African American female single parent raising 2 gifted female children, not only am I offended at that remark, in Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools, we shouldn't put up with it. And so we've got to figure out a way to make sure that we can have this conversation that is productive for everyone, because when we talk about equity, we really do mean everyone. It's not just the problem of a few. It's a problem for us all. And I just wanted to share that. I've shared that in every conversation I've had if I had people in front of me, because I think that sometimes we can hide behind that we're number one in the state for white students and 57 for black. And that is not okay. And I also chose this district on purpose. And I'm glad they chose me, not for any reason except that we have wonderful, talented people in this district. And if anybody's going to address gaps and biases and implicit bias and all these other things we've been talking about, if it can't be done here, we're in trouble in this country.